obviously in episode 14, you're pitted against your father in what's supposed to be a cage match to the death. And, I mean, Monroe pretty much tells you something that should alter how you react to him in the future. Can you talk a little bit about the revelation, what that does to Connor, and how he then relates to his father in the coming episodes?
Yeah, it's a betrayal of trust, because that was at a point where I felt Connor was finally starting to really warm up to Monroe after what had happened in the previous episode, and really accepting him as his father. So hearing that was him just getting burned again. He's been burned so many times, so many lies have been told to him. So, and that one was especially hurtful in the context. And seeing as Monroe is the only person that Connor has at this point, it's the only sure thing in his life. So definitely a heartbreaking blow. Spidey senses tingling even more. Connor is always feeling everybody out, seeing who he can trust, and definitely he's skeptical about certain aspects of Monroe now. He doesn't know what to believe. But like I said, he's the only person Connor has that's a sure thing in his life, somewhat. So, you know, the conflict of that is what arises.
Do you find that he's trying to like lean on somebody else to try to build a bond? Is he going back to Charlie and trying to reconnect with her?
Yeah, I think there's always that element. She's the female in his life, but there's nothing. I don't think he leans on her. Doesn't trust anyone.
When Connor kind of is back with the big group, when everyone kind of gets together after that episode, how does he kind of fit into that group? What role does he play now that all these people he doesn't know?
That's a good question. I think he doesn't really know, and that's what's kind of interesting for me. Seeing that through his eyes, he doesn't really know what his place is, and he's trying to find that within that group dynamic, and he doesn't even know if he wants to be a part of it. So, you know, there's a little bit of back and forth as far as his point of view goes in that group, in that dynamic. So, yeah, I don't think he really knows. He's feeling it out. He's taking everything in. He's taking everybody in. He's seeing once again who he can trust, because trust is a very, very important part of this character. I think Connor's always been searching for that father figure, because you see it with Nunez. You see how he sort of latched onto that guy, even though he was this sort of ruthless dictator within that realm, and he's been looking for that sort of fatherly character in his life. So finding Monroe, it took him a while to feel him out, and then for that betrayal to happen in the next episode, it's just it shatters everything, really. At that moment for him, it shatters everything. But that doesn't mean there is no hope for rebuilding that trust, as you see.
When we first met Connor, I mean, he had the power of being a leader. Is that something he wants to get back? Or are we going to see him in the next few episodes kind of take charge and kind of try to step up and make some decisions and get people to listen to him?
He'll try.
Right, well, that was the key word.
Yeah, and that goes back to your question. You know, he doesn't know what his role is in this group, because this is a group full of leaders, essentially. The writers call them heroes, and I see them that way as well. I'm not sure if Connor does. He sees them on the same level, but it's he's trying to get into that sort of feel as well, of being a leader in that group, but it doesn't come off as well as he likes.
Is it because he has to kind of earn stripes, or is it just people don't like the way he leads?
None of these people trust each other in this group dynamic, so it's yeah, and especially him, because he's just from really out of nowhere, out of left field, just comes into the group fold. And there's all the history with Monroe and Rachel, and Monroe and Charlie, and Miles and Monroe, and it's a huge melting pot of craziness. So, you know, But yes, to answer your question, I think he does see himself as a leader, and I don't know where they're going with the storyline, but I think those aspects will come into the fold.
After the fight with Monroe and then that joins the group, is there anyone else within the group that he can find to confide in, or that kind of helps him in any way, or is he still kind of isolated with Monroe?
I think he starts to warm up to Miles. For me, that's what I felt, a warming up to Miles, silently though. Definitely a figure that he respects and someone that he's starting to see the value of. And he sees his morality as compared to Monroe's morality, and they're on two different planes at this point. And I think there's something about that attracts Miles to Connor. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Does he actually have a heart of a killer? That's one of the things this next episode comes.
I don't think so. I think he has the capacity, like any of us, and that capacity has been heightened in situations in his life, but I don't think he has the cold-blooded heart of a killer. I think underneath he's got a big heart, in fact. And you start to see little bits of that put into the story in the incoming episodes.
And as far as with his relationship with Charlie, he's going to eventually get to meet Jason. Is he going to think he's the better man, or is he going to want to step aside and let the better man slowly claim her heart?
I think it's going to be butting of heads.
Going off of her question, you said that you may have, that Connor may have a new love interest also, so is that going to be two different triangles?
I didn't mean he's going to have a love interest. I mean there's going to be a new chemistry that comes into the fold when someone is introduced. So, yeah.
Well, we do know just bits and pieces about his life before he was introduced to you. Are we going to get any bigger chunks of his backstory, whether in flashback or by people he meets?
Not as of yet. Not as of yet. I'm trying to think if there's anything substantial that comes up. Not particularly, but I assume that there will be some stuff that comes out of the woodwork.
Both Connor and Jason have had fathers who haven't been the most perfect of fathers. Do they interact or talk about that at all? Or bond about that?
No.
No. Okay. They just really don't like each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not really. No, not really. Connor is not the type of person who just opens up to anybody like we've talked about. So, if anything, maybe there's a silent recognition, just like with Miles. Connor is definitely a silent observer on this show, and I like that about him. There's a bit of mystery to him, and I think that they're playing on the element 100%.
How aware is he of what's going on with Aaron and all the technology and all of that mystery of?
You know, it's on completely separate ends of the spectrum. Connor has no interaction with those characters, just as of yet.
So do you think it would really change the way he's looking at life, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. The nanites, I mean, it's such a crazy idea in the first place. I think that definitely would, yeah, change his perceptions.
Well, you mentioned this was a group of leaders, and Connor is attracted to them because they're all kind of that hero, leader kind of qualities. What does he bring to the table if he sees himself that way?
I mean, we've seen in these episodes, he's a very capable warrior. He's loyal, and I think he's also got like I said, he's a silent observer, and he's got an intelligence about him to see things in a way that could help the group to survive, because that's what they're ultimately doing, is trying to survive in this post-apocalyptic world. And I think he definitely brings elements of, that they would need in that dynamic.
Guys, we have time for maybe one or two questions.
When Monroe first met Connor, he dangled the carrot of kind of reemergence of the Monroe Republic. Now, is that something that Connor still maybe wants, or does his opinion on striving that change at all?
I think think they have two different ideas of what the Monroe Republic is, and I don't think that they even, either one of them know what those are, but it's bringing them together. So I think he's encouraged by it just because he's getting that love from his father within that idea. That's how they're bonding at this point, you know.